Let's talk imposter syndrome, and let's talk about what this looks like in real life, not just theoretically, the steps that we go through. Of course, we need to know the steps to go through to heal from and overcome something like this. But I think it can be really easy to look at everybody around us and assume that everyone else has it more together than we do. When we watch people stand up and talk about topics, it can be hard to associate the idea that those same people may be experiencing the same thing. And so if it's okay with you, I'm just going to share some personal stories today about how imposter syndrome has shown up for me throughout my life. Let's build a foundation first, though. Let's just very briefly identify what imposter syndrome is. A lot of people think that imposter syndrome and self-doubt are the same thing. They're not. Self-doubt is a mindset issue. Self-doubt can be overcome with mindset exercises, with some reframing of thoughts. Imposter syndrome is an identity level thing. It exists at the identity level. It is the belief that at any point, somebody is going to call you out as a fraud. Somebody is going to expose that you have been faking it, that you don't really know what you're talking about, despite external evidence that you are qualified. So that is the key difference here. So we all have self-doubt. About 80% of us as entrepreneurs have imposter syndrome. So I wanted to share with you a little bit about what that looks like. And throughout this, I'm going to talk a lot about my own experiences. Keep rocking with me because I promise I have a lesson and some information for you and what this looks like for you. So I want to go all the way back into now, because this does go very far back for me. I want to go all the way back to when I was in high school. So when I was in high school, we had a student ambassador program that I was selected for. Now, there were 3 students amongst about 500 or so in my graduating class that were selected for this student ambassador program. I never knew how I got selected, why I was selected, what that looked like. All I ever really knew was that I was selected, and of course I got to go on this trip and represent the United States for my area of the country. Now, fast forward just a little bit to at 18, I joined the Army, and I'm in basic training, and we're out in a field exercise one day. We're only just a couple weeks into basic training now, so it's all still very scary. We're all still getting to know each other, to learn, what it's like to be a soldier. And so we're just finishing a field exercise, and drill sergeant calls me to him and he says, march the platoon back. Now, a platoon is my group of, I think there were probably close to 40 of us. He says, march the platoon back to the barracks. So the barracks being where we form up, where we sleep, that kind of thing. And so I'm terrified. I have 2 left feet. I can't call cadence. And oh, by the way, I have a fear of being in front of groups of people. Had a horrible fear of public speaking throughout most of my life. So drill sergeant doesn't ask, he tells. Nobody asked me if I wanted it. Nobody volunteered to do this. We are told that we are going to do that. You don't get to say no, thank you. So I took my tail up to the front of the platoon. I got everybody formed up and I marched us very, very messily back to the barracks. I cannot tell you the relief I experienced when we were back there and I was done. Fell back into the formation with everybody else. Drill sergeant took over, and I could not wait for the next person to take their turn because that was horrifying. Well, I'm waiting for the next person, yet I keep getting called back up there over and over. It didn't take me that long to realize, oh, I got selected as our platoon guide or student leader for the group. I hated every minute of that because I was 100% sure the drill sergeant made a mistake. Any moment he was going to fire me because I was horrible at this. I was not intended to lead this group. I could hear my peers calling me names and telling me, or not telling me, but telling each other how they could do better than me, that I was a mess up there. I could hear the evidence that I was no good at this. Yet, fast forward to the end of this 9 weeks of basic training, and I'm still standing in front of this platoon each and every time. Drill sergeant has not fired me, and I don't know why. Maybe he's playing a cruel joke. Who knows? So moving into my first duty station, and I'm selected amongst my peers for specific roles in the unit, in the organization. I am selected for certain boards to go and to compete amongst my peers. Moving forward into even out of my military time and into the civilian sector, I was chosen for roles over peers to have to move into more unique situations and circumstances. This theme occurred throughout my young adulthood. And And always, I had no idea why I was being selected. I could not figure out why I was being chosen. And I was always terrified of what was going to happen when they realized that I wasn't as good as they thought that I was. When they picked me, they made a mistake. And surely it was just a matter of time before they were going to figure that out. I am sure you can relate at this point if you're noticing this sounds kind of like something that you've experienced, to how incredibly stressful this way of being is. Never really believing that you are the kind of person who can do that, that it is who you are, that you can step up into these positions and that you can lead and that you can do well. Never truly believing that. Very disheartening, very disempowering. It wasn't until very recently, I'm talking within the last couple of years, that I finally went through a training on imposter syndrome so that I could heal my own imposter syndrome and so that I could use my training to work with clients on their own imposter syndrome. That I learned that that is what has been going on all of these years. Not here to toot my own horn, but if you look at the evidence, which is exactly what somebody who has imposter syndrome chooses to ignore. When you look at the evidence, and leader after leader after leader selects you, and you think all of them are wrong. Can that really be true? Or are you kind of the common denominator here, but in a good way? You're the one that's wrong. You have these amazing skills that you can use. You have these assets. There's a thing that makes you unique and it makes you stand out, and you're not seeing it. You can't give yourself credit for it because at the core, at your identity, you don't believe it's who you are. Does that sound like it's resonating with you? Hit the like button if this is kind of, aligning with something that you've experienced yourself. So great news is today I have healed my imposter syndrome, and I can confidently say things like, you can heal yours as well. I can help you heal yours as well. And even if it's not me, I'm confident that if this is something you are experiencing and you are now aware that this is what is going on, it's not just some self-doubt that you haven't been able to keep quiet or kick to the curb, that there is something at the identity level that's really keeping you from seeing all of the power that you have. I promise you that you can overcome it. Commit to yourself to make the decision to heal the imposter syndrome, to get the guidance from a professional who knows about imposter syndrome and knows the way through it. And when you have come to the other side, even if I'm not standing there next to you, I promise I will be on that side, on the finish line, so to speak, cheering for you. Please let me know that that is where you have come, because I promise you I will be cheering for you.